Folks. So for those of you who don't know or haven't watched the video I made on it, Nick Fuentes has been causing a stir in the alt-right for a little while now. And what he's essentially been trying to do, I mean, I'm sure you've been paying attention. I'm not accusing you of sleeping on the job. But essentially what's been happening is that the alt-right, kind of in this instance led by Nick Fuentes, has been trying to stir up attention with what they call the fake conservatives and what we call the fascist neocons, TPUSA, Ben Shapiro, so on and so forth. And recently, Ben Shapiro spoke at a conference at Stanford University, of all things. Fuck me, I wish I had that kind of legitimacy. Ben fucking Shapiro. Ben motherfucking why can't they just move out and sell their waterlogged home Shapiro gets a fucking speaking position at Stanford University. Fuck me. Now, I listened to a good bit of this. I did. Not happy with that, but I did. And, God, this got really fucking cringy really fast. There were several points. I actually skipped to a random point in the video about 4 or 5 minutes in, and I unironically, guys, it actually happened. I clicked right on to Ben Shapiro's classic. Oh man, the fucking madman. His classic I identify as a blank joke. Damn, he hit it out of the park, and everyone in the audience laughed. God, fuck me, dude. Conservative comedy. Fucking, oh God, kill me. Oh man. Oh Jesus Christ. It was actually like he was rambling about trans people, and he was like, it was something like, I've got, you see, let's say I've got a little son, and I do have a little son, and I need to share how the world works with him. So if we're wandering around on a parking lot and he sees a car and he says, "Daddy, that identifies as a unicorn," and he runs out in front of it, well then, sorry son, now you identify as a pancake. Audience laughs like, fuck me, dude. Holy shit! I actually can't believe it. But that's not what we're here for right now. We're not here for the fucking the incredible conservative intelligentsia to which we have become accustomed. I actually want to talk about what he talks about next. And I think I'm going to let him take it away, actually.
Tonight, I'm going to talk about the dangerous game that's being played by two particular nasty groups who feed off one another. I'm speaking about the radical left and the alt-right. Now, I discuss the radical left on campus all the time. That's because campuses are dominated by the censorious and nasty radical left. On the other hand, I actually did question whether I wanted to talk about the alt-right tonight. One reason is because what the alt-right wants more than anything else in the world is attention. They rant, or they cry, or they even sing their white supremacist anti-Semitic moon landing conspiracism into their webcams for hours at a time while insisting they don't care about attention. But of course, that's exactly what they care about the very, very most.
So here's what my goal is. This 1.5 speed? You know it's not. Here's my goal going into this. He's about to talk about the alt-right and also broadly about Nick Fuentes. So we got some conservative infighting going on right now. And it's true, by the way, they love their attention. They love their fucking attention. And you know what? I mean, so do I. So what the fuck do I have to say? We all love attention. We're all public figures here, right? The point that I want to make here is this. If you could draw a scale of people's political alignments in the broadest right to left sense, I'm pretty far left. Ben Shapiro is pretty far right. Ben Shapiro, that's a poor person's problem. Ben Shapiro, global warming isn't real. Actually, I mean, it is real, but are we even affecting it? Actually, I mean, I don't know. Maybe human ingenuity will solve it, but we shouldn't do anything about it because human ingenuity can operate independent of our behavior. Shapiro, he's pretty far right. Cool. Anti-trans, biological pronouns. Ben Shapiro is a fascist. And I mean that very wholeheartedly. Now he's not goose stepping, down Madison Avenue. I don't think he will either. But the line of thought he tends to engage in is fundamentally fascist. It's not, in fact, just fascist. It's white nationalist. Ben Shapiro will speak on the dangers of immigration. And he won't just talk about it the way I talk, because there are dangers associated with immigration. He won't talk about it the way I talk about it, reasonably. He'll talk about how we're being invaded from the southern border. Ben Shapiro thinks that Palestinians like to sleep in sewers. Ben Shapiro believes that most Muslims are radicals that are at threat of engaging in suicide bombings. Ben Shapiro believes that the West is waged in a civilizational war against the Muslim world. These are kinda, sorta fascist white nationalist memes, aren't they? It's one of the reasons why we had the Christchurch shooting, who implicated Ben Shapiro, and there was the previous white nationalist shooting, who also implicated Ben Shapiro. Why would a white nationalist be interested in something Ben Shapiro has to say? Well, this is how radicalization works. Nobody is born a Nazi. Nobody's born anything, really. You have to be pushed or pulled to different political positions. And you can imagine pretty easily, I think, how you move over to Ben's position. You start to think trans people are icky, and then you realize, oh, not only are they icky, trans people are actually delusional, mentally ill narcissists who are part of the left's broad scheme to engage in a cultural Marxist takeover of our academia, destroying the very concept of truth with postmodernism, and making our country weak by bringing in brown people and people of foreign faiths. That's some pretty fascist shit you believe right there, Ben Shapiro, that you people advocate for. But there's just one little problem. One little problem. See, let's say you've made it that far. Let's see you've made it that far. You believe that America is the greatest, and the Muslim world threatens us, and immigration threatens us, and black culture is a problem, and crime rates are high for black people, and white culture and, Western civilization built everything good and successful and valid in the universe, and there's a cultural takeover of academia by cultural Marxists to disseminate untruths and perpetuate an abolition of the concept of empirical reality through postmodernism. So you believe all that shit, which, by the way, these are all Nazi talking points. All of the things that I just told you, with the possible exception of trans people because they weren't as prominently recognized back then, all of these talking points are identical to those that were used by the Nazis. They just, swap around the dates, swap around the country. It's not America, it's Germany. It's not Western culture, it's, Germanic culture. It's the same. So you believe now what Shapiro believes. And then, and it's worth noting, of course, that cultural Marxism literally was Nazi propaganda. They called it cultural Bolshevism, you see, back then. Now cultural Marxism, then cultural Bolshevism, same conspiracy theory. But here's the problem. Let's say you've gone that far. You've gone that far, right? Now you're Ben Shapiro. Now you believe what Ben Shapiro believes in. Well, here's a fun thing. Ben Shapiro isn't a Nazi. I don't believe he's a Nazi. I really don't. I genuinely don't. However, if you're one of Ben Shapiro's fans, you gotta wonder. So we know that the left is trying to destroy Western civilization by bringing in immigrants and brown people and other, swarthy foreigners. We know that the left is trying to destroy American cultural values through dissemination of propaganda through the media, mainstream media and stuff. We know that the left is corrupting academia. Well, here's the thing. All you have to do is believe that the left is part of a Jewish plot, and you've done it. You did it. You arrived at Nazism. That's the only categorical difference between Ben Shapiro's position and that of a neo-Nazi. That's it. That's all it took. Ben Shapiro leads you all the way up to the precipice of being alt-right. And all that person has to do is take one little step. You've already engaged in conspiratorial thinking. You've already engaged in blatant fascist propagandizing. What's one little step more? Oh, the left is responsible for all this horrible shit destroying Western culture. Well, who's controlling the left? Who controls academia? Who controls Hollywood? These are not hard puzzle pieces to put together when you've already seen the puzzle laid out in front of you the way Ben Shapiro puts it. When you're already looking for conspiracy, when you're already looking to defend Western culture against insidious foreign plots against the will of foreigners and cultural subversive agents, it's so easy to put it all together. Nice. You did it. You discovered the JQ. And there is a sublime hypocrisy in someone who has probably brought over quite a few Nazis himself, now complaining about the alt-right. There is a sublime hypocrisy in that. The old arrangement doesn't work anymore, Ben. You can't keep basically saying neo-Nazi talking points but expecting them to stay quiet because they aren't numerous enough to challenge your plurality. Nazis are growing more numerous. Nazis are growing louder. And they are not particularly impressed with that funny hat you're wearing. I mean, that's really it, isn't it? That really is it. So now we get to hear Ben Shapiro over here condemn a bunch of alt-righter neo-Nazis for engaging in the kind of rhetoric and propagandizing, which is literally one shade of gray away from what he pulls people towards. Let's watch him do it.
Which is why they've been distributing calendars of conservative events and encouraging trolls to show up to ask pre-written questions designed to elicit lols from like-minded idiots who populate 8chan and Gab.
Wait, did he actually write a script for this point? This is script writing. This is not off the cuff. He actually wrote a script for the alt-right part. Okay.
The other reason is because there is a great deal of factionalism on the alt-right, so the very term alt-right is controversial among some of its adherents. Some of them call themselves the New Right and swear they despise the founders of the alt-right. Some call themselves America First, trying to hijack President Trump's slogan to give themselves the patina of credibility.
They also call themselves, in case anyone's wondering, by the way, I have heard neo-Nazis refer to themselves as Nazis, neo-Nazis, alt-righters, new writers, Christian nationalists, identitarians, white nationalists, white supremacists, and God, I'm probably missing like 16 more. They like the terms, the fucking, paleo-conservatives, ultra-traditionalists, America Firsters, right libertarians, if I didn't already say that one. And yeah, they call themselves centrists too. Oh, traditional Catholics, that's true. That's a Nick Fuentes special right there. Yeah, Catholic paleo-conservatives. National Socialists is a classic one. You have Strasserite, Nazbol. Identity Europa. Oh yeah, European nationalist, whatever the fuck that means. They like white separatists. These people, by the way, if you ever want to talk about political correctness, please God, spare a thought to whatever dumb fuck is coming up with all these names to refer to neo-Nazis. Okay? Please. If you ever want to talk about manipulating language to soften a political point in the most politically correct way imaginable, then you're talking about these people, okay? I'm still the same thing. I don't have to lie. Socialist, anarchist, leftist, easy. I'll in 100 years I could call myself the same things, but these people are constantly jumping around. I don't know if all of them are even smart enough to recognize how stupid they sound when they're constantly reinventing the fucking word neo-Nazi.
More on that in a second. Some name their movements after mammals, some after amphibians. It gets confusing. It's meant to be. You see, keeping people confused is actually one of their chief tactics because it gives them room to ridicule anybody who doesn't understand all of those esoteric labels and jokes and beliefs.
That is completely true, by the way, and I'm going to give credit to Shapiro when he makes good points. Remember, the goal of the anti-Semite, in the words of, Sartre, is not to convince with their words, but rather to discombobulate, to discern, to agitate, to confuse, and to upset. They're not trying to make good arguments. They're trying to give themselves rhetorical room to dump on you.
So why talk about the alt-right at all? The answer is simple. The radical left and the alt-right desperately need each other. They're playing a game in which the radical left seeks to delegitimize anybody who isn't on the radical left by lumping them in with the despicable alt-right, and in which,
as I just did, point is where point comes.
The alt-right seeks to make common cause with anybody canceled by the radical left, specifically with supporters of President Trump who've been maligned falsely as evil by the radical left in order to artificially boost their alt-right numbers. These two goals are mutually reinforcing. Now, first, I want to just say, straight for the record.
So what he just described was literally what radicalization means. So again, Ben Shapiro genuinely is a dumb fuck. What he's describing right now is the process of radicalization, which he participates in. I don't know what else to say. Yeah, more people are jumping on the far left and the far right because liberalism doesn't function anymore. And Ben Shapiro, fascist as he is, does advocate for a broken form of liberalism.
Okay, the alt-right does not mean anybody who's immigration restrictionist, or people who are pro-tariff, or people who are more isolationist on foreign policy. It's a very specific...
Notice how he has to keep distancing himself from the alt-right, even though the policy positions between himself and them are extremely similar. Look at that. Listen, that'd be like if I was being accused of being or I was talking about rapists or something, and hey, listen, a rapist isn't somebody who inserts their fingers into a girl while she's drunk asleep on the couch when everyone knows that I've already done that. He's the similarities.
Specific set of beliefs. And what you'll see the alt-right do is adopt the beliefs of some of these other movements in order to find cover for their actual belief system, which really is quite vile. So here is how this game works. Let's say that you're on the alt-right, whatever your preferred label. Okay, we'll just call you the alt-right for purposes of this conversation because that's what you are.
I like how Ben Shapiro will use the preferred terminology for neo-Nazis, but uses the biological pronouns for trans people.
Let's say, for example, that you're constantly talking about white civilization. A nonsensical term, because civilization is not defined by color, but by history and culture and philosophy.
Except, Ben Shapiro, you use Western civilization and Judeo-Christian civilization all the time to describe all that is good in the world, and when you do so, the little bits of the map that light up behind you are all majority white countries. Listen, Western civilization means white civilization. That is what people mean when they say it. That's the dog whistle. You're literally using a dog whistle and then complaining about people who stop using that dog whistle. When you're like, Western civilization brought about everything good in the world, and you're referring pretty much exclusively to Western Europe, like ancient Greece and Rome, America, Canada, and Australia, I'm sorry, it doesn't take a tremendous number of brain cells to pick up what the point you're making is here.
But let's say that you say white civilization is under attack by multiracial hordes. Ooh.
Except you've said Western civilization is under attack by multicultural hordes. Again, he can't. Everything he advocates for is identical. He has no leg to stand on here. Ben Shapiro does not have the right to complain about Nazis. Yeah, he's complaining about the death of the euphemism. Look at this. There's a whole alt-right playbook episode on this. Look at this. Look, fucking 500,000 views. That's the purpose of this video. It's people who for decades now have had to use dog whistles, waking up and realizing not only that the dog whistles are now unnecessary, but that the people who are actually following through on the principal message of those dog whistles are far worse than they anticipated. Yeah, Ben Shapiro, I'm terribly fucking sorry. Yeah, he literally said social democracy only works in Sweden because they're homogenous. That's a fucking Nazi argument. Ben Shapiro, you don't get to complain about Nazis. They're just doing what you do. They just do it louder with less dog whistles, because neo-Nazis don't actually dog whistle that much in their own spaces. They're pretty open with their beliefs. They just do it with less dog whistles, and they follow your beliefs to a natural conclusion.
Let's say that you're antipathetic toward Jews. You're enraged by the liberties guaranteed by the Constitution of the United States. Let's say you spend your days ranting about how conservatives and traditional classical liberals, the sole protective force in America against the radical left, haven't conserved anything. You say that America is not a propositional or a creedal nation, even though the nation's founding literally begins with the words, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights." Let's say that you cite Christianity as the basis of your values, but you're more likely to quote Nietzsche than Christ. Let's say that you constantly lament the decline of our fundamental institutions, but you don't belong to a church, you don't belong to a bowling league, you don't belong to the Lions Club.
Bowling league, our fundamental American institutions. Have you pulled any strikes lately? That is pretty classically American, though, isn't it? Like a bowling league being like a fundamentally American institution. I don't know. For real though. What points here are legit? What points here are not legitimate? For one, neo-Nazis pretending they care about American values, that is pretty fucking stupid. Because they don't care about the basic liberal principles that were endowed in the founding documents of our Constitution. So they don't give a shit about America. And they definitely don't give a shit about our precious social institutions or anything of that sort. And they definitely don't give a shit about Jesus H. Christ of Nazareth. Because anyone who believes in the teaching of Christ and extrapolates that from that an anti-immigration, anti-multicultural stance of anti-Semitism or fucking what else, is that like you can't, I'm terribly sorry, my friend. I never went to Catholic school, but I am reasonably sure that you missed a couple of verses somewhere from the Bible, you know? Yeah, anti-poor. But again, what are you going to do, right? Ben Shapiro also doesn't give a fuck about foundational American institutions because he criticizes colleges all the time. He also doesn't give a shit about the foundational principles of American liberty because he's part of this unironic PragerU, my free speech is being impeded on because YouTube is demonetizing my videos horseshit. This nonsense fucking lawsuit that's been going on for over a year now. And Ben Shapiro sure as shit doesn't give a fuck about what Jesus Christ would have cared about, because Ben Shapiro's response to hearing that people are poor and need medical care is, that's a them problem. So on what ground does Ben Shapiro have to stand on here? This is literally just a man whose entire life is pushing out euphemisms for fascism and Nazism, and then turning around in surprise as people listen to the message. There are verses in the Old Testament in which the Israelites expel their foreign wives and family because they're impure. Yeah, well, I'm talking about the fucking Bible. I don't care what fucking Jews believe in.
You don't belong to the Rotary Club. You don't own a home. You don't have a grown-up job. You probably aren't married. You probably aren't a parent.
Ooh.
Let's say that your greatest achievement in life isn't family, kids, church, community, but that you once made a semi-ironic meme that 7 other people like you upvoted on Telegram. Turns out not all that many Americans agree with you.
True.
After all, your agenda is pretty disgusting. You also happen to have the unfortunate habit of saying really disgusting things when you think other people aren't listening. For example, your thought leaders, your self-proclaimed lead influencers, will say they're not on the same page as white supremacist Richard Spencer, but then they'll go on Facebook and post about the Charlottesville white supremacist rally, quote, "The rootless transnational elite know that a tidal wave of white identity is coming, and they know that once the word gets out, they will not be able to stop us. The fire rises." Really hiding the ball there, are you?
Funny, noted, because Trump and a bunch of members of Trump's administration have refused to call Charlottesville a white nationalist rally. They've said it's a conservative rally that was partially taken over by these rapscallion rowdy neo-Nazis who nobody wanted there anyway. And Prager University lied to play cover for Trump and those white nationalists. And Prager University is an organization that Ben Shapiro often works with. So again, What the fuck ground do you have to stand on, Ben? You have downplayed the existence of neo-Nazis at Charlottesville. You have made fucking panic, hyperbole, fear-mongering headlines about Antifa at Charlottesville. You work with organizations that have lied and disseminated propaganda, playing cover not only for those neo-Nazis, but also for our president, who played cover for those neo-Nazis with his classic good people on both sides one. What ground do you have to stand on? You don't get to complain about Nazis, Ben. Didn't Ben previously say Charlottesville wasn't white supremacist? I don't know if that's the case, but it would not surprise me in the slightest.
Let's say that your self-proclaimed lead influencer has compared Alex Jones's ban from social media, a ban, by the way, which I opposed publicly, to a modern Kristallnacht and the beginning of a white Holocaust. But when it comes to the Holocaust itself, you have some questions.
I just want to say, by the way, what fucking snowflakes?
You do. Right, those questions are questions like this. This is a direct quote from a lead influencer in the alt-right.
Here we go.
Matt says, if I take 1 hour to cook a batch of cookies and Cookie Monster has 15 ovens working 24 hours a day, every day for 5 years, how long does it take Cookie Monster to make 6 million batches of cookies? I don't know. That's a good question. No, that doesn't sound really correct to me. Wait a second. It takes 1 hour to build a batch of cookies, and you have 15 ovens, probably in 4 different kitchens, right, doing 24 hours a day for 5 years. How long would it take to get to 6 million? I don't know. It certainly wouldn't be 5 years, right? The math doesn't seem to add up there. None of it really adds up. None of it really makes sense. This crazy cookie analogy. 6 million cookies? Nah, I don't buy it. That's all irony. I'm an irony bro. That's all irony. And this is the kind of stuff some of these folks are saying.
And it should be noted, by the way, that despite his posturing here about the Holocaust and Holocaust denial, which that was, I mean, if you're too stupid to see through that dog whistle, then, I mean, I can't help you. I can't inject my brain cells into your skull. But the irony here is that Ben Shapiro is a supporter of Netanyahu's regime, and Netanyahu of Israel is a Holocaust revisionist. That's right. Netanyahu has said that it wasn't actually Hitler's plan to do the Holocaust, but he was seditiously and connivingly convinced to do it by Arab leaders who wanted to destroy the future Israelites before they had a chance to move out. Netanyahu of Israel, voted in, high approval rating, including by Ben Shapiro, has engaged in Holocaust revisionism, rewritten history, to try and turn the purveyors of the Holocaust from the German Nazis to their now local enemies, the Arabs. And Ben Shapiro's fine with that, because that kind of Holocaust revisionism supports a Zionist agenda, one of rewriting history, one of Israeli supremacy, one of rabid anti-Muslim dogma. And he's fine with it when it goes that way. But, you know, when it goes, when it's directed at him, oh my. Ooh, I don't know. That's a little rough there. I don't know how I feel about that Holocaust denial, even though I've essentially engaged in it.
For the record, by the way, just so the facts are on the record, according to Henrik Tauber, a member of the Sonder Commando who worked in several of Birkenau's gas chambers, quote, we worked in 2 shifts, a day shift and a night shift. On average, we incinerated 2,500 bodies a day. The procedure was to put the first body with the feet toward the muffle, back down and face up. Then a second body was placed on top, again face up, but head toward the muffle. We had to work fast. The bodies put in first soon started to burn. Their arms and legs rose up. Women's bodies burned much better and more quickly than those of men. For this reason, when a charge was burning badly, we would introduce a woman's body to accelerate the combustion, unquote. But maybe he was just being ironic, bro. In fact, it seems like some members of the alt-right, they have a pretty large problem with Jews generally. They'll tweet things like, quote, so-called Jewish values tend to favor liberal and internationalist positions like abortion, foreign intervention, multiculturalism, homosexuality, and mass immigration. Some of you will say that you're hurt in your daily existence by Jews. You've suggested that a religious Catholic who writes for my website, a guy named Matt Walsh, is a, quote, Shabbos Goy race traitor who's throwing his own people under the bus and hates white people. In fact, Walsh is, according to you, an F word, that would be for gay people, P word, as in female genitalia, race traitor who works for the Jews. What prompted that outburst, by the way, on the part of this alt-right lead influencer? The fact that my friend, Matt Walsh, said that the El Paso racist shooter should be publicly executed in brutal fashion. Also, it turns out, lead influencers in the alt-right not so fond of black people either.
Damn. You know, playing cover for them by continuing to use the term alt-right as opposed to the, I think, much more perfunctory term neo-Nazi, I'm not entirely sure if I agree with that. I think things might play over a little bit better if he would use the proper terminology here. Maybe it sounds a little bit stupider to say, these neo-Nazis, well, they also have a problem with black people. But all the same.
One particular lead influencer, when asked if having sex with a dog is the same thing as having sex with a black man, said, quote, they would both be degenerate.
Yeah, it's Nick Fuentes again.
Classy people. So, when you believe all these garbage things, and you've said all these garbage things, and you are in fact a garbage human being, when your views are obviously white supremacist garbage, what do? You take 4 steps in order to legitimize yourself. Step number 1, the Trump gambit. First, you declare your allegiance to President Trump, and declare that you're not really alt-right, even though you obviously are. You show up to lectures wearing a MAGA hat in order to get the media to cover it, and in order to demonstrate that you are truly a representative of the 63 million Trump voters. You call yourself America First.
Well, here's where a reasonable person might sit for a second and think. Let's really think. Why are so many neo-Nazis attaching themselves to Donald Trump? Let's think. Why are basically every single member of the alt-right currently in existence still upset that Donald Trump didn't follow through on a lot of the promises he was making? Promises like banning Muslim immigration, or building the wall, or kicking the Muslims out. What about Trump would have led these people to support him? Fascinating. That's what a reasonable person might do. If you were actually interested in stopping neo-Nazism, which Ben here is most certainly not, then you might have to look at the systemic causes, which sort of preempted it. Nick Fuentes' girlfriend cucked him with a black man Pepe laugh. Is that true? I mean, if that's true, I mean, I hope he gets therapy.
Hijacking Trump's slogan, what you actually mean is white Americans first. The media eat it up because the media love nothing better than, of course, lumping Trump in with particularly this group.
No, but maybe? Okay, thank you for clarifying.
You don't have to take my word for it. You can just ask Andrew Anglin, the neo-Nazi who runs the Daily Stormer. He posted a calendar of events for alt-righters to attend and attack, including this particular event. And he wrote last week, quote, I think basically we've got a model going forward that is going to work. If we get questions, we'll take questions, but simply being there and heckling in the audience relentlessly is extremely effective. And you can meet other like-minded people there this way as well. Remember, we're all good optics, American nationalists now. Longtime readers will remember this is something I pushed very hard while others were dressing up in neo-Nazi costumes. And by talking about these issues instead of saying, gas the kikes or whatever, we are more or less immune to being fired or kicked out of school if doxxed. You just, if somebody calls you alt-right, you say, no, of course I'm not an alt-right, neo-Nazi, racist, white supremacist. I'm just an America First nationalist and a MAGA supporter. Now, this is a clever tactic. It is. Donald Trump is many things. He is not a white supremacist, and he is not an anti-Semite.
I don't believe that Donald Trump is an anti-Semite in the same way that neo-Nazis are. But anyone who is at this point claiming that Donald Trump isn't some form of white supremacist, multiple allegations of racism on the part of his housing company, the fucking the Park Five fucking kids that even after they were exonerated, he continued to maintain their guilt, fucking shithole countries, racist birther movement against President Obama, the fucking Muslim travel ban, anyone who is still playing cover for him at this point, which of course Ben Shapiro would, is doing, guys, check it out, the exact same thing Ben just accused the neo-Nazis of doing, where you lie about your positions and the positions of your comrades to make yourself more palatable and to distance yourself from people who you believe you could get public condemnation for associating with. So the neo-Nazis will go, oh, we're not neo-Nazis, we're America First nationalists. And Ben Shapiro can go, oh, us MAGA folk, we're not white supremacists. Of course not. No, we're just, American nationalists. They play the exact same game. And this is why I'm not as excited about this conservative infighting that a lot of you guys are. The reason why is because I don't think this is a fight that the conservative Inc. can win. Because Ben Shapiro's positions here are indefensibly hypocritical. And over time, more and more members of his constituency, more and more members of the TPUSA, PragerU, Ben Shapiro fascist light group are going to make the pretty natural, logical extrapolation that maybe it's the Jews who are behind all of this. And they're going to slide to the right. Nobody is going... No, do you think Ben Shapiro is going to be de-radicalizing any of these Nazis? Do you think that anyone in this Fuentes, America First, whatever, Molyneux, white nationalist group is going to see an argument from Ben fucking Shapiro and be moved further over back to being a neocon or a fasci rather than a neo-Nazi? It will never happen. But they can pull people over from Ben's side. All this means, all this really demonstrates, fundamentally, is that the broader conservative establishment functions as a pipeline towards neo-Nazism, and that it is utterly unequipped to deal with the consequences of its own propaganda.
His daughter is an Orthodox Jew, so is his son-in-law, so are all of his policy advisors, or at least many of his policy advisors with regard to the Middle East.
Wait, all of his policy advisors are Orthodox Jews? Wait, is that right? Wait, maybe the JQ is real. Shit.
Donald Trump moved the American embassy to Jerusalem in a bold move of solidarity with the people of Israel. He has a roundabout named for him in Jerusalem. Trump Heights, Ramat Trump, is named for him in the Golan Heights.
See, all of this comes off as virtue signaling. What are you doing right now? You're talking about a large and growing group of neo-Nazis, and you're wasting time trying to defend alleged accusations of anti-Semitism against Trump? He can't do it.
Donald Trump has nothing to do with these so-called self-proclaimed America First asshats.
This is all he cares about. He doesn't care about the Nazis. He doesn't care about stopping the Nazis. He cares about ensuring there's enough of a distinction between himself and those Nazis that people aren't going to hold him accountable for it, or Trump accountable for it, or any of the other dumb fucks that align with him accountable for it, when we start seeing increasing numbers of mass shootings, assassinated journalists, and blown up synagogues. That's what he's doing here. He's covering his ass. This is a position of hypocrisy, yes, but also a position of supreme arrogance, that he can sit here on top of his little fucking stage and bellow out to his audience stuff which is directed not to meaningfully ail this serious problem we are dealing with, but rather to cover his own ass. So that a year from now, as the white nationalist shootings continue to go up and up and up, and as more and more people implicate Ben Shapiro and their fucking manifestos, he can hold his hands up and go, I have nothing to do with any of this. I don't see how there's any possible way anyone could associate my politics with their politics. Didn't you know that Trump loves Israel?
In fact, he's very close to one of the people they attack the most, Charlie Kirk. Right? Donald Trump regularly invites Charlie to official meetings in the Oval Office.
That's fucking terrifying, by the way. That a fail son with no education who used daddy's money to start a campus organization is getting invited to fucking White House meetings. I love that.
But, these people bought some MAGA hats, so the left will spread their lie, and they know it. Which is why, again, they're encouraging people to wear MAGA hats to events. So,
see, the left will spread their lie. Covering your ass, Ben. Ben Shipster. Ben Shapiro. Ben Sekiro. Shadows die twice. Oh, well, you see, they'll wear MAGA hats, and there's no association whatsoever between neo-Nazis and Trump, even though all of them voted for Trump, and all of them support Trump's policies, and all of them love Trump, and all of the fucking neo-Nazi rings online, like 8chan and 4chan, supported Trump and propagated a whole bunch of Trump propaganda, and even though the Donald subreddit, right now, if you go, there is literally a festering neo-Nazi pit full of blatantly disguised white nationalist dog whistles, there's no association whatsoever between Donald Trump. There's no association whatsoever between Donald Trump and these neo-Nazi groups. There's no association. You can't say that. We love Israel. I can't do it anymore. Fuck this fucking piece of shit. This is why I can't be this is why we shouldn't be optimistic about this infighting on the right, because it's not actually fighting. The neo-Nazis are gaining ground, and the conservative, the fasci groups like TPUSA and PragerU are holding the hands up as they're slowly being engulfed and going, we're not associated with this in any way. You can't hold us accountable for this. It's fucking disgusting. Neo-Nazis are a plague. Neo-Nazism is a mental illness, and Ben Shapiro, along with all of his conservative Inc. filth, are directly responsible for propagating their existence. They abet them, they aid them, they propagate them. They propagate their dogma, they play cover for their neo-Nazi fucking propaganda havens and social spaces. They do nothing to meaningfully challenge their points besides blithely saying, oh, this is disgusting. Oh, that's terrible. Oh, really? You think that homosexuality is degeneracy? That's disgusting. Even though I've said the exact same thing before, that homosexuality is wrong, morally, intrinsically baked into the fabric of the universe on account of God, and how I'm disgusted by gays and gay weddings. I've said that before. But when you say it, that's wrong. That's gross. They're all complicit. And we're going to get them all, folks. The threat of neo-Nazism will only be defeated when we have squashed not only them, but everyone on the way to them. Alright, that video made me angry faster than I expected it to. I would be more charitable to Ben if he actually admitted he fucked up. Yeah, me too.